Welcome to the Bear Archery Podcast. I am joined today in studio by a couple friends of mine, Mr. CJ Carey and Foodie Mike C, Chef Mike Castaneda from our Cook Wild series. And we talk about, we start off by talking about Disney movies and watching some old school Disney movies, ones that hold up, ones that don't. You'll understand when you get there. But we also talk about the Disney mindset is part of the reason why us as hunters catch so much hate from the non-hunting community, because of the way that movies portrays these animals. We get so much hate for harvesting and killing these animals. It's a really good conversation. There's a lot of laughs and it's a lot of fun in this episode, but we go into CJ's start as a hunter and kind of the setbacks that he had at a young age about hunting, but also now his current transition from a crossbow into a compound and some of the complications that come with that and some of the hard things that come with that. Guys, it's a really good episode. One of my favorite topics to talk about is trail cameras, and that's discussed here, and kind of the pros and cons of trail cameras. They do a lot of good for us, but they also, in my opinion, they take a toll on us as well. And they take away some of the joys that we had as a kid of just going out and seeing what we see. Guys, it's a really good episode. It's a super fun episode. I promise you will laugh. And hopefully you'll learn something too. But guys, as always, this episode is brought to you by our good friends over at ScentLock. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoy.
With over 90 years of innovation, Bear Archery continues pushing toward the goal of founder Fred Bear, making archery accessible for all. Fred believed the history of the bow and arrow were the history of mankind, and everyone should immerse themselves in the outdoor experience. Welcome to the Bear Archery Podcast, where the mission is simple: to hunt, grow, and inspire others.
Guys, I oftentimes say that I always have a binocular harness on my chest. What good is a binocular harness without a good set of binoculars? I am a sucker for fine Japanese glass. I love good optics. I love spending time behind it. It's just fun. It's fun to go out and look at stuff, but also good optics make spotting and looking through them a whole lot more enjoyable. Kowa Optics does it and does it better than anyone else, in my opinion. They have some of the finest Japanese glass on planet Earth. It's all I've used for the past, 8 years or so. This right here, the Kowa 55, is one of the best products ever made in the history of the universe. It is the smallest, most compact scope you can get, but it still offers phenomenal glass. It's really hard to find a spotter that is this small, this light, this compact. You can throw it in your backpack. You can leave it in your truck. It's so small and so compact, but it still offers phenomenal glass. This is one of my favorite products ever. Guys, if you're in the market for new optics, I would highly encourage you to check out Kowa Optics, because they are, in my opinion, the best glass that you can buy. Go check them out. All right, in the studio with CJ and Foodie Mike C, Chef Mike. Honestly, I just asked Mike, I'm like, why are you here?
I don't know. I don't know why I'm here. I know CJ, so that's why I'm here.
Just here for a good time.
Yeah, he's just here to.
Mike's going to share his one hunting experience ever. Honestly, if I knew where this episode was going to go at all, I would give you some sort of insight, but I don't know. So
it's going to be wild.
We're just going to have a party here. CJ, give us an introduction to yourself, man.
Yeah, I am at this point mostly a deer hunter. Grew up more a bird hunter. And as I got older and fatter and didn't want to walk as much, I figured that going to the deer route was a little bit more my style.
He's a mediocre head football coach, a decent husband, but rocker of dad shoes.
Yep.
Say that.
Yeah. I crushed the dad shoes. I am a mediocre assistant coach. Head coach goes to another mediocre.
Less than mediocre, Jeremiah. You suck. No, they're actually having a weird. That's where our conversation began this morning. CJ is the assistant coach for our high school here in Wellington, and they're actually doing really good. So it's exciting. And I wasn't at the game, but didn't the team like forfeit halfway through? Like they were getting beat so bad or something?
Not this game. That was against Clearwater. And that was
if
right
you're
after
from Clearwater, you suck.
Good old Clearwater.
Yeah, after the third quarter, we were going to get a lightning delay, and they were getting beat pretty bad. And their coach said, "Yeah, just call it."
So we got to get to Brahms.
Yeah, we got
Brahms about to close, guys. We got to go.
We got to get out of here. So yeah, but our average win is by like 41 points or 39 points. So we're doing pretty good.
Have you seen that movie Home Team?
No.
Go home and watch it immediately.
What's it on?
Netflix.
You know the band, The Home Team?
Yeah, Mike just cooked for him.
I did. It was fun. Great guys.
It's Kevin James.
It's when he's
gets kicked out of the NFL. And coaches.
I started it and I turned it off, but
because it's Kevin James.
I was like, this guy doesn't look like Sean Payton.
Don't look so offended right now. I was like, I love this guy.
It's my favorite.
You ever seen Paul Blart Mall Cop?
Paulie Blart.
I will watch it. I watch just about any sports movie.
It's a funny movie.
I recently started watching all of the hokey like Disney sports movies from when we were kids. Yeah. Angels in the Outfield, Rookie of the Year. Well, you know what I mean? Like they don't make those things anymore. I loved it. You know, like and like trying to figure out which ones still stand up to this day. And most of them do, but I will say Angels in the Outfield just casually mentions that the pitcher is going to die at the end of the season from lung cancer, and they never bring it up again. Like literally, they're like, he's like, "Why are you here?" And I was like, "Oh, checking on what's his name. He's going to die in 6 months from lung cancer." And they're like, "Oh," and nobody makes it. They don't say anything. They
just full of dread. The rest of this movie, just like I'm waiting for this guy to croak, and I'm going to have to see it as like this young kid.
It was super weird.
Let it go.
But yeah, I mean, but most of them hold up. You know, the only movie that hasn't so far is Mighty Ducks 1 is pretty awful.
So 2 and Knuckle Puck is just ridiculous. That's
the Knuckle Puck's not even.
Everybody listening to you right now, you just completely discredited yourself.
Mighty Ducks 1 is not good. They take an alcoholic and let him run around with a bunch of kids. It's probably not the best scenario.
Shout out to Disney. Back when Disney
keeping
was
it
real. I watched one. My kid wanted to watch a Disney basketball movie. What's it called? Double Team or?
Oh yeah, that one's
the two twins.
Those are Air Bud.
Oh, Air Bud. also
a Disney basketball movie.
Yeah, Double Team. I mean, that was the made for TV, so those have to be graded on a different caliber. I watched Motocross yesterday, actually. Still pretty good.
Mike's too old.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
But Double Teamed, I mean, she travels and somehow they get like, there's like 3 seconds left on the clock, but they have time to pass the ball like 43 times.
Yeah. Yeah. For those of you listening, Mike is actually like a 63-year-old man, just looks really good for his age.
I appreciate that.
So all these movies, Mike's like, I was already 19 when that came out.
Yeah. I'm brown. It helps the genetics.
Yeah. What about Brink?
Yeah, I watched Brink too. It's great. Definitely holds up.
That's a good one.
It's a fantastic movie. Which, you know, where that one doesn't hold up though is as an adult, you're like, yeah, Brink definitely should have just stuck with X-Blades and helped his family out financially. And his friends were kind of jerks.
Ridiculous.
Like, oh, your family can't make ends meet. You're a jerk for going and making money and helping them out. Like Soulskate.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about starting a podcast where you review old Disney movies?
No, but I could.
You should.
I watch a lot of movies.
What about Bambi?
Speaking of hunting
and deer, what about Bambi?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I went out, if I was going to, you know.
I don't know that I've ever actually watched the whole movie of Bambi.
Well, if you watch Bambi, they must be on public land because they are firing off like 30 shots trying to hit a deer. Like it is ridiculous.
Or is Mike?
Yeah.
I don't know what that means.
Well,
I will say I was terrified. We had a little baby deer come walking up to us one time at our old job. And I was so worried that mom was going to come out and just start busting us up. Because I've seen too many internet videos where these deers just start going nuts.
Whitetail buck deers.
Dude.
You have a video of that still.
I do somewhere. We named it Becky.
Yeah.
I was trying to feed it.
This thing was like literally a month old, maybe.
Yeah. And we were just surrounded by mosquitoes. Like I literally had like 15 mosquitoes on me. Like I don't know where we were at. But
and so Mike proceeds to like think this deer is malnutrition and needs him to go get his snacks.
I went and got some snacks. Yeah. I had some like dried fruit and
tried to feed this deer.
It did not want it whatsoever. So I tried to pick it up, obviously.
You should have
gave it honey sriracha almonds. I'm just kidding.
It probably was something like that, to be honest.
It probably was something Mexican.
Yeah, you had to let it suckle at your teeth.
You taste like elote.
I will say this though, on the topic of Disney movie, I talked about this a long time ago, and it's been a while, so I think I can bring it back up. Disney is what's wrong with the hunting community, and not what's wrong with the hunting community. What's wrong with people's negative opinions of hunters? Because Disney does this magical thing where they paint these animals as being mythical creatures that can talk to you and be your friend. Mike's over here like, what do you mean they can't? He's like, did you meet Becky?
That's literally my only experience with wild animals was Becky. So,
and so now everybody in the universe thinks that we as hunters are such terrible people because we're going out and shooting these animals that frolic in the woods and there's never anything wrong with them and they're all happy. And so, I mean, I'm a big fan of Disney movies. However, I do believe that's a large portion of what's wrong with the way that people view hunters.
I would completely agree with that. I have my own Bambi upbringing story. Kid, love Bambi. We're living in Georgia at the time. My dad was in the military, so he was
Gross.
stationed out there. It was gross. And my dad wasn't much of a hunter, but he was a heck of a poacher. And
what?
Anyway.
Hold on a minute. Wait.
Yeah, I mean, that was already a disaster upbringing there. And
Speaking
that
of Disney
aspect of
movies,
but I was all about Bambi. And one day my dad rolls up and he's like, I got a deer in the back of the truck. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Did you have a
check this out.
tag? No.
No, dude, he pulls out a spotted deer. I mean, a spotted baby. And I'm
Dad,
like,
this thing has milk on its lips.
exactly.
Yeah, it
And so from that point on, I was like,
You're
yeah,
real good meat.
maybe hunting's not for me. And literally from probably about the age of 5, I did not actively, I say actively, like go out at archery or anything like that and deer hunt till I was 29 again. I went and rifle hunted about 3 times during that time, but I just it always was kind of a turn off for me.
you had to let the trauma rinse off.
Like literally, I it was just that's kind of and growing. I mean, I haven't talked to my dad really since I was about 10. But when I would go and stay up with it, he ended up being stationed up in at Fort Riley, and they lived in a house on Tuttle Creek, and so you're out in the wild. But literally, like I remember vividly, like my dad F-350 OBS square dually driving nighttime, see a deer, slam into the ditch, brights on it, pull out his rifle and drop it, man. I mean, it was just
the only real way to hunt.
It was. I mean,
I'm not going to share CJ's last name at any point in this podcast.
Well, even if
the authorities will go looking for CJ's dad.
I wish they would. They probably know where he is. If they find him, the creditors aren't far behind, I'm sure.
There's a list.
Yeah, I mean, but I mean, it's something else. But anyway, that put a bad taste in my mouth, I think, for hunting for a good while. So it wasn't until really getting into high school and working around with farmers and stuff and going and shooting pigeons and dove hunting, and then getting into, when I was in high school, there was pheasant everywhere around here.
Oh yeah.
Are you still a dove hunter?
Yeah, I'll go out and dove. I don't do it as much because of football,
Jerk.
honestly.
I don't understand it.
Dove hunters are all jerks.
Like pheasant, dove, stuff like that. People are like, hey, can you cook this? And I'm like, why am I pulling BBs out of my mouth constantly?
Yeah.
Like it's stupid.
Doves mate for life.
Well,
So if you kill,
not
if
once they're gone.
if you kill someone's mate, they'll never mate again.
That's a 2-for-1 shot right
Yeah,
there.
hey, they're delicious.
Shout out to my dad, because my dad's super sensitive.
Makes
And
great
so,
jerky chips too.
I can say whatever I want about him because he doesn't know what a podcast is, so
Okay.
he's not going to listen. So,
Wow.
but literally, like I grew up dove hunting, and then we just stopped. And one day I'm like, Dad, why don't we dove hunt anymore? He's like, because doves mate for life, boy, and I'm not going to kill somebody's mate. And I'm like, all right, cool.
Unless it's a
He's like,
deer.
let's go murder the pheasants instead. I'm like, all right, cool. He's like, I don't care about killing stuff.
Yeah.
I just don't want to separate one from its lover. And I'm like, all right.
That's why you just kill them all when they fly over.
Sounds like a new Disney movie.
Yeah, in the making. Did Disney make Wild Robot?
Yeah.
Have you
Oh,
guys
no. That's
I haven't seen it yet.
Illumination.
My kids
Oh,
have
I
seen
can't
it.
remember. Yeah.
That is a great movie.
It is
And
wild.
this is what I'll say. I think that where Disney was good with Bambi was teaching kids about loss. And they went away from that for a really long time. And Wild Robot leans into it
Hard,
heavily.
real
Like
hard.
they deal with death and the possibility of death. And all kinds of things, like even disabilities. One of the main duckling or gosling, has a but it's crazy.
Ryan?
They lean into
Yep.
it.
Ryan's in the movie?
But go watch Wild Robot. You
It's
get
very
that
good.
for free. That's free publicity for anybody listening.
Shout out to Wild Robot. My kids have seen it. I have not. I was told my daughter cried like 412 times. I was told my son did not cry at all because he's a jerk. But
Yeah.
that's so funny too. Just the differences in how kids handle death.
Mhm.
Like the differences in how my son, like one time I plugged a squirrel out here and my dad was in town. And so we were shooting bows and this squirrel runs across the fence and I'm like, oh, I'll shoot it. So this arrow goes through the squirrel and it's not dead. So it's on the end of the squirrel, like,
Oh Lord.
fighting. And both of my daughters just like start screaming, crying, "Oh, Dad!" And Tucker's out there with the end of the arrow. The squirrel like trying to bite his face. He's like, ha, 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 like a sick little freak. But my son's also been hunting with me a lot. Like he goes out with me and he sees the death. He sees the taking of animals. But he also sees the whole process. He helps me break it down. And got a picture of him from last year of holding this deer's heart in his hands. Like he's all about it. So
Right before he ate it.
right before he ate it. So one thing I wanted to talk about, because you mentioned this in a text leading up to this, was the transition between crossbow hunting and compound hunting. And like I do want Mike to share his hunting experience because it was a fun one and there's lessons to learn from it.
Scent lessons.
Teaser.
Control.
It has to do with hot chocolate and bologna. We'll get there. So did you start out as a crossbow hunter?
Weird enough, what happened is I had my hunting license because I hunted birds, and I had a buddy who wanted to get into hunting, but he got like the apprentice or the like the learners, whatever, that you can have for like 2 years, but you have to have a licensed hunter with you. And so he was like, "Hey man, will you come with me?" And I was like, "Yeah, whatever, I'll go with you." So I would go and sit underneath the tree and just sleep, and he would go hunt. And I mean, he never shot anything. It wasn't very good, but
Because you were snoring.
he has a video of me snoring. I did, man. I got bundled up. I love the cold, so I was just bundled up, just sleeping, like Carhartt overalls, hoodie on, just passed out. But the second year we did that, I was like, maybe I'll hunt while, I might as well. I'm already out here. Well, my younger brother, had left for the military, the Marines, and he had a crossbow, and I was like, I'll just take this out. Maybe I see something, maybe I don't. And I had it with me, and we went out a couple times. I didn't get anything that year. Well, the following year, I said, I'll just go out by myself. And it was November 7th. I know that because 3 years in a row, I shot my buck on November 7th. Super weird, but
don't get me started on November 7th.
What's going on November 7th for you? It's the day you missed one.
I had record. I actually went back and listened 3 different times in my adult life. Had I said if there was one day I could go out and hunt, it would be November 7th.
Yeah.
9 months before November 7th is Valentine's Day.
That's my birthday.
Valentine's Day is?
Yeah.
Getting lucky twice, baby. What's up?
That's right.
So anyways, it's Mike's sister.
Yep.
Joke's on you, fool.
Jokes on me.
Okay. So I learned the hard way that 9 months from November 7th is Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
And so my daughter was born on November 7th.
Oh.
And I was literally sitting in the hospital, and it's like probably 4 or 5 different people like text me and like, "Joe, buck down." And I'm like, I'm in the hospital with a baby. Like,
rather be killing something right now.
I had literally said for years that was my favorite day to hunt. And then that was the day my kid was born.
Yeah.
Needless to say, I haven't been to her birthday party in the last 3 years.
Yeah. That's what I said.
That's on her.
My son's is November 13th. So it falls. I still go pheasant hunting opening day with some friends. It's like a tradition. And my wife hates that I'm like, I can't do his birthday.
So Tucker's birthday is September 2nd. And the last 2 years I was on elk hunts. So I wasn't here for his birthday. And I'm like, but look at it, the bright side. When he's 14, he'll get to go on an elk hunt every year for his birthday.
That's unfit cool. Father.
So yeah. I'm never here for my son's birthday. I'm never here for my daughter's birthday because they're in hunting season.
Yeah. Well, I'm laying down. I'm on public land, mind you. And I'm laying down on my stomach underneath an evergreen tree. and it's in this real small little bunch of trees. I don't even know why I was in there, to be completely honest with you. And
I don't know how I found myself there.
yeah, I mean, literally, it's how it was. I'm laying underneath this evergreen tree, and my leg was hurting or something. So I crawl out and I stand up. As soon as I stand up, I scare a buck off. I mean, like literally. And I'm like, well, this was stupid. Why am I even out here? I don't know what I'm doing. Well, it's probably like 8:30 at that point, and I'm like, screw it, I'll stay here another hour. And I crawl back underneath this evergreen tree, and I'm laying there, and I'm just like, hunting's stupid. Like, why am I out here? I don't know why. Like, this is so dumb. Well, all of a sudden, I see this little 6-point buck walk in, and I'm like, oh, sweet, man, I'm gonna shoot this buck right in the face. I mean, it was literally close enough that I could have
Typical
stabbed
Disney
it.
moment.
Yeah, right. But it's close enough. I legitimately could have reached out and stabbed it.
Okay.
Like,
I've been
I
there.
have no idea how.
Been there a time or two.
Well, it turns around, it's leaving, and I'm panicked. I'm like, oh my God, I'm not gonna get a shot on this. Well, as soon as he leaves the trees, a 10-point comes in from the opposite direction. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to shoot this deer. Well, I'm too nervous.
Right in the face.
Yeah, right in the face. And I'm so nervous that I forget to take the safety off of the crossbow. So it doesn't shoot. And so he turns and starts heading directly away from me. And in my novice of hunting, I am like, if I shoot it from the back, it's got to go through the front, right? It's gonna kill
Right
the
in
deer.
the butt.
And I'm like, never mind, that's a bad idea. I'm not going to do that. And then literally 3 seconds later, an 8-point comes in from the back the opposite way and starts heading straight towards me. And I'm like, okay, I know that a front shot really is it's not that great of a shot, but I do know I did my homework. I knew the anatomy of a deer, and it's walking. It probably gets to like 7 yards away from me, walking dead straight at me. And I shoot, hit it. It took about 3 steps, falls over, dies. And I'm like, oh my God, like, I can't believe I just did this. And cut it open, take it out. The arrow's still sitting through the heart, went straight through the heart. As high, I mean, it was the greatest euphoric feeling I think I've ever had. And such a proud moment. And I felt amazing until I had to drag it out. And I was like, hunting sucks. Like,
See, and that's something I don't understand as someone who's like never killed anything. Like, you see, like, who's that? Is a country singer, right? Did the whole is he down thing?
Luke Bryan.
Yeah, and that's like the most like known thing. You get this like hunter's high. I guess I just don't understand.
You really don't. And even at the time that I did before I shot the deer, I mean, I didn't really have it then, but Dylan will know. I brought this up to him in a text too, but you really get to shake, like you get such an endorphin rush that you're just shaking. Like you can't even control it. It could be 95 degrees outside and you'll just be shaking like a leaf.
That's wild.
If you're, and anyway, you go back after that buck, I was hooked. I really got into it. I read studies. I'm a big fan of Steve Ranella. So I read a lot of his stuff, and I'm lazy when it comes to studies. I just wait for him to talk about it, and then I will go read that. I'm not going to go out and look for them myself. That's too much work for me. But
that's nerd stuff right there.
It is. But he has a lot of great knowledgeable stuff that I
heard it here first, folks. Steve Ranella is a nerd.
Let him know if he wants to come on this podcast.
You're going to tag him on it.
Mike might have the chance to do some celebrity cook judging with Steve Ranella.
Oh, see, that's what I'm saying. That's really another thing. So right after that first year of hunting, I found his meat eater. And then it was like, because when I first got my deer, I didn't really know how to prepare the meat well, if that makes sense. Like, I knew that the backstrap you could make, and no matter what, it's going to be good. But what do you do with an arm roast, right? But
ask Mike.
I'm glad I'm here.
Well, Steve, he's like, just throw it in a pot and make it exactly like a pot roast. Yeah. And it's going to absorb those flavors, and you're really not going to taste, the
How did you make that? You made a like a Mississippi pot roast.
Mm-hmm. I think made Biera out of it.
I've done Biera. I've done like pot roast.
But the pot roast was, because like you were saying, sometimes it's hard to figure out how to use like a ham, like a big chunk of ham.
If you're processing your own deer, I didn't have access to a grinder.
Right.
So all of my stuff was whole meat.
But I also, like, I'm at a hard spot because it's like, okay, after the first deer, like, I don't want any more ground meat. And so I'm like looking for ways to use those big chunks. And the deer I killed last year, I'm like, Mike, is there something we can do with this ham, like a giant ham? and made like a Mississippi pot roast like sandwich.
That's
Like,
fantastic. Yeah.
oh my gosh, it was like I remember telling my parents, I'm like, you have to try this. Like,
Yeah.
you're gonna have to make this because it was something that you don't expect to have it out of deer, but then you have it. It's like, oh my gosh, it was so good.
Yeah. I bet that first year I probably turned 80% of it into a jerky one way or another.
Nothing wrong
Hell
with
yeah.
that.
No.
Yeah. I mean, it was,
About it.
and it was good, but finding other ways. The real problem is, my wife won't touch deer meat.
Mine won't either.
Yeah, for the most part. So it's really just
She's
me.
a yuppie.
I have my son's getting older. So he'll eat some. He's 5, so it's not like he's going to do anything. And I have a 1-year-old who would probably put away a whole deer if I let him. But so really, 1 deer is a good amount of meat for my family. So I always try to go out and get 2 does during rifle. So I'll still go out during both some, but during rifle, I always try to get a minimum of 2 does, and then I donate those to the what is it? The feed program or something like that.
Yeah, there's several of them. There's one around here. There's a drop off point in at the butcher in South Haven. It's called
I do that
Hungry
too,
or whatever.
Yeah, so I donate one there, and I donate one to Winfield.
Yeah,
each year.
That's
so
cool. I didn't know that.
Have you had Mike make anything for your wife?
No, funny enough, Mike one time cooked a whole hog's head.
Oh yeah,
and then made tacos with it, and she got a tooth in one of her tacos.
She did,
and she was pretty much out after that.
It was really good though.
It was fantastic.
It was so good,
especially the parts without teeth.
Yeah,
but it really was. All jokes aside, it was fantastic. And I can, I did something with you before with the wild hog when Mikey smoked some.
Oh yeah,
and
dude, that was crazy.
That was I had wild hog once before. I'd had it multiple times before, but in a sausage form. So you really can't, you can put anything in a sausage form and it's going to be fine. All the seasonings, everything go into it. But that was the first time or the second time I'd had like a whole meat piece. And it was, you never would have known. I don't think you would have known that it was a wild hog.
The craziest thing about that is it was like sleeting outside, just constantly, like just terrible.
We had a big community event.
We were going to do a big event, but it was like such bad weather that we decided not to. Well, I had the Gorilla Grills Kamado grill, and we filled it with one chimney, just lit it at the bottom, and the top was still not lit. We spread it around like in a circle, and that thing for like, I want to say 8 hours consistently. We didn't have to touch it, anything. It stayed at 225 in the sleet for like 8 hours, and it was ridiculous.
It was so good.
Yeah, but I remember how upset I was that we had to cancel.
Yeah.
So a little backstory here. And this is when the podcast would have been under Powder Hook. So before Bear took it over, but we had brought down the master chef, whatever his title was, worked for Gorilla Grills, like traveled and cooked for Gorilla Grills. We brought him down, went to Oklahoma, and we killed some pigs. And then him and Mike were going to cook all of these pigs, and we were going to feed the community, just come out and try wild game. Here's these pigs. You can come eat for free lunch, whatever. But sure enough, even by morning, I think it was actually snowing.
Yeah.
Like there was actually snow coming down. And so we ended up having to cancel that. So we just invited some friends and family over to try it. And that way we could still kind of get the feel of people trying it and giving their reaction. But that was cool. I forgot about that.
Yeah. It was a good time.
And I can honestly say, there are things that I normally wouldn't eat. I'm not necessarily a picky eater. But I don't like canned corn or, things like that. And if Mikey makes it, I'll eat it. I'll try it for sure. And I don't know that I've ever eaten anything he didn't like. The only downfall to Mikey's
see some of the
food,
sushi he made last week.
Did he put cilantro on it? Because that's his downfall. He puts it on everything. It's like
he's Mexican.
Relax.
Yeah, I have to.
Cilantro.
I'm like contractually obligated.
That's basically like that's part of their DNA.
Sometimes I'm at home and I'm like, I miss Mikey, so I'll just get the Dawn dish soap out and I'll put it on top of one of my tacos, and I'm like, yeah, this is cilantro.
This is Mikey.
This is exactly what it tastes like. But no, really, there's so many things he's made that I would never have tried on my own.
Yeah.
All right. So I can imagine.
Me too.
I have a brisket at my house.
He keeps telling me he's going to bring a brisket.
I know. I forgot
again. Yeah, man. Whenever.
I get a half a cow, and I have had this brisket sitting there. And I'll smoke pork products because like it's almost impossible to mess them up. But I'm not going to smoke a brisket because I'll screw. First of all, my smoker blows. So I'm just going to give it to Mikey. And
you want another one?
I might need another one. But
no, I said the sushi. So if you're listening, go over to Mike's social media, Foodie Mike C. He's about to start a new series called Will It Sushi.
Most of it does
And,
not. There's a spoiler alert. Most of it sucks really bad, but we have to find out.
Put a breakfast burrito in a sushi roll.
Yeah.
Oh.
What else do we do? I can't even remember what the other one was.
Wasn't it like like a chicken fry, like a
Oh yeah, like a fried
mashed
chicken one,
potatoes.
mashed potatoes, fried chicken.
Yeah.
Like,
He tried one bite. He's like, the answer is no, it will not sushi.
it's really bad.
This sucks. I'm like, that's a good one to start out with.
Yeah. So we're also looking for new ideas. So if you have any ideas of stuff we can roll with, feel free to just
Oh, dude, I've got ideas.
send them
for
in
all day.
because we've
Pepperoni pizza,
Copenhagen.
peanut butter and jelly.
Copenhagen. There you
Oh,
go.
Copenhagen, dude.
Well,
Put
Zen
a
actually-
whole thing of Zins in there. See if that works.
Peanut butter and jellies.
But that-
Uncrustables.
I think I know why we brought Mikey here, though. Besides being a color commentator,
it's a brown joke.
Because it's color.
I brought Dylan a shirt and I have one on and it says eat deer. And I think a lot of people will hunt deer and they don't eat it, and it's because you don't know how to prepare it.
Yep.
Again, I have a buddy whose wife and his family won't eat deer meat, but it's because when he makes like deer hamburgers, he uses 100% deer meat.
Yeah.
And he cooks it to
Dude,
like
never do
200
that.
degrees.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just
I'm like, dude, that is atrocious.
right.
Like,
Yeah.
you gotta, you do have to go through some extra steps when you're cooking it. You can't just throw it in a skillet.
But it's so
most
good though.
times.
There's ways to do like simple
Absolutely.
things and
And
like
here's what I learned with Mike is there's certain things like certain not seasonings, but like
techniques.
no,
Are you talking about like velveting, for example?
no,
Okay.
Mike, shut up, Lynn.
not seasonings,
bad.
but like rosemary. Like
oh
that
yeah,
type
yeah,
of
yeah.
things.
Using some wine
Herbs.
and some
Or,
herbs.
yeah, and there's
Yeah.
certain things that will like bring out certain flavors, like not necessarily, not even hide the flavor,
Yeah.
but bring it out in a way that it's like, oh,
More
that's
palatable.
that's what it's supposed to taste like. Like,
Sure.
and there's certain, like I remember you made duck one time, and I grew up a duck hunter. So before you say like, oh, you've probably I killed 300 ducks in a season most of my life, but I just never liked to eat duck. And then Mike's like, well, there's a couple herbs.
Yeah, whatever.
There's a couple herbs that if you throw on that, it's going to help bring out the natural flavor, and it's going to be way better. And I'm
Just like Chuck Adams, that was the name, right?
yeah,
Yeah. He it was like the Michael Jordan of hunting, and this guy's like, I don't eat duck. 'Cause it's
yeah. And then
that's
he
always
made
terrible.
birria, and he's like, oh, I'll eat duck.
yeah.
That's what you mean.
He's like, I will
Yeah.
seek you out and pay you for this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Make this again. So,
Yeah, and I think that's, and I think the other big drawback for whatever reason, you don't eat pork and expect it to taste like beef. You don't eat chicken and expect it to taste like beef. But
Sure.
for some reason, we eat deer and we're like, why doesn't it taste like a cow?
Yeah.
It's not a cow. That's why it doesn't taste.
That's why I hate the
cow.
term gaminess. It's like,
Yeah.
no, it doesn't taste gamey. It tastes like deer.
It tastes like a wild animal.
Like it's not going to taste like beef from the store because it's not beef from the store.
Yeah, exactly. And that goes to say something about why when I went into the wild pig or the wild boar, that I was like, oh, I wonder what it's going to. It tasted exactly like. Normally, it went against that theory.
Yeah.
And it tasted exactly like. But it is that at least was the same animal.
Sure.
In the lineage of things. But I think you have to get those preconceived notions out of your head that this is what it's going to taste like. Another big one would be like sandhill crane.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
You're like, oh, it's going to be a bird.
Yeah.
It doesn't taste like a bird at all. And
No.
if you went in thinking that it's going to taste like chicken, you're going to be disappointed because it tastes like steak,
Yeah.
which is what,
it's pretty incredible.
it is. It really is. And that's become a really big thing in Texas. I feel like it's really probably one of the fastest growing hunts down
Yeah.
there.
Ribeye of the sky.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I do want to take a step back real quick because you talked about that first deer with the crossbow.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, we'll get back to that.
Where did the transition from the compound?
So I haven't even at this point. So funny enough, the first year I shot it with a crossbow. The second buck I shot, this was year 6 basically of me deer hunting again. The second year I went out with a crossbow again, a little bit. I took it more serious this time, did my homework, did my scouting, did my things. I did end up shooting the buck again on November 7th. And I had made the decision at that point. I said, okay, I've done this twice. Both times I will say this. Both shots were within 20 yards. It's not like I got a crossbow and I started shooting things at 80, 90 yards. Like some people think can happen. I'm sure there are some that I know they can shoot that far. Whether or not you're going to make a clean kill from that far, is to be said.
Yeah.
Something else. After year 2, I actually, I had I was diagnosed. Well, I wasn't diagnosed, but I started getting these really bad pains in my ankles, in my shoulders, my back, my jaw. It turns out I had psoriatic arthritis. And I don't know if anybody listening has ever had it, but it literally feels like you're walking on broken bones. I couldn't even close my jaw for close to 2 years
Jeez.
because the doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong. They kept thinking it was one thing or another.
Just locked jaw constantly.
Yeah, exactly. So I wanted to go to a compound, but I couldn't. I couldn't pull one back. I couldn't. I mean, I'm talking like 10 pounds of pressure, and I know nobody can see me, but at the time, almost 6'1". I was probably like 270, 275. Like I was a big guy. I should have no problem pulling, 80 pounds, something like that. But it literally felt like when I would try to pull or do anything, like it was bones scraping on bones. Like it was horrible. And just last year I finally got diagnosed. It took 6 months for my insurance to pay for the medicine that I needed. And this is the first, I just hit a year of like being able to walk normally without boots or like crutches or even able to chew food all the way.
This is a story of an overcomer, gentlemen.
Yeah, it's
what we got here.
So needless to say, I had to continue. I continued crossbow hunting up until this year, and I had to find. Luckily, I have a buddy who has some land. It's connected to public land. It's basically public land. I see people out there hunting it all the time. I mean, it's ridiculous. But he let me put in a tree stand on the north side of his field, which is 15 yards off the road, because that's as far as I could really arguably walk, especially in like boots and things. And he was extremely helpful. And I got my buck last year, and it was an easy drag out. He was able to drive my truck right on the field. I had to drag it like 7 yards. And this is another thing I will say about, the crossbow and this and that. I have never, out of the 5 bucks I've shot in 5 years, I have never taken a shot further than 30 yards. I've never had to track my deer more than 50 yards. So I think at the end of the day, if you're taking an ethical shot with whatever the weapon might be, I think that's really what we should look at is, what are you best at hunting with? Now, as of last year, this year, I could probably take a compound out and hunt. I don't have enough practice under my belt. I don't feel comfortable going out and shooting a deer at the compound this year. I'm practicing right now, but if I go hunt tomorrow, I will take my crossbow out tomorrow.
Yeah.
That being said, if I get a buck and I get enough practice in, I will continue to probably go out, and I will probably take the compound with me as well. And
lose some arrows.
Yeah, I won't be as nervous. I still don't want to take any bad shots, obviously, but that's really where I'm going to go. I have a buddy who has an extra bow that I'm going to that I've been practicing on, but I'll probably take out and try to use. I haven't committed to my own. I haven't got sized. I couldn't tell you anything.
Well, see, now we just need to get a hold of Bear and say, hey, let's send CJ a bow here. Like, get him
get this poor guy a bow. He's an overcomer.
He's a walking Disney movie, right?
I feel bad because last week on the episode, I had a guy who literally is in a wheelchair, can't use his legs, and he's completing the North American Super 10 right now.
Jeez, yeah, and I couldn't walk like down my stairs.
I had to drive my truck.
I'm a big dummy, and I can barely walk. Like, this is no joke. It's literally like walking on glass. Like, it's what it feels like. It's the craziest thing. And then I bought a house built in 1875 that's 3 stories tall, where all the bedrooms are on the second floor, and we had to move.
Rolls down the stairs.
Yeah, well, my wife was 8 months pregnant at the time, and we're moving, and I'm having to move everything. It was brutal. It was so dumb, but I can honestly say, shout out Humera. You have
brought to you by Humera.
Yeah, you have saved.
This episode is brought to you by Humera.
You've saved my life. And funny enough, I had a dose recently. I had to do biweekly injections. It didn't work. The shot didn't. I pushed the button, and it was a failure to deploy deal on there. And I was like, no big deal. I should be fine. 2 days later, I couldn't walk again. And luckily my doctor called me in
still trying to suck it out of the needle.
Yeah, I know. I threw it away, and I was like, man, maybe I can go get that out of the trash, and I'll bust it open and try and
jab myself.
So I was hoping like maybe I was getting better, but from what the doctor has said is once you're on it, you're basically on it forever, which sucks because I fight with my insurance monthly to get that. So again, shout out Humera.
CJ's new podcast is going to be brought to you by Humera.
Yeah. I hope so.
Hopefully they'll just sponsor me. I won't need insurance anymore.
I'm gonna have like Oscar Myers bologna and stuff. Like we'll figure it out. We'll get it figured out.
But anyway, so I plan on making that transition. But at the end of the day, like I said, I think what's important and what everybody can agree on is making an ethical shot and a clean kill. And if that's with a crossbow or a compound bow or a recurve bow or a long bow or whatever you can make that with comfortably, go for it. I don't know anybody out there that is forcing somebody to use something they don't want to. It's not like if you, as somebody who hunts with a crossbow,
Like peer pressure.
Like you don't use a crossbow. You need to move over. Nobody's going to force you to use one. It's nice that some states allow it. I definitely think for people with disabilities, it's awesome that they have that opportunity to go hunt and use that. But like I said, I think at this point in time, I'm ready to move up. I think it's a really good learning curve. I have a 5-year-old son. He'll probably start with the crossbow, just learning the basics and of an ethical.
Have you taken him out hunting yet?
Yeah, so he went out with me last year. Love him to death, but bow season's just he's like, oh, why is that leaf that color? Why does that tree fall down? Why did the deer walk like this? I'm like, dude, you gotta
stop talking, man.
You gotta be quiet.
So Tucker was with me last year, and he was 5 last year, 6 this year. And that deer right there crested the top of the hill, and I had a decoy out, and he says, "Can we shoot that deer?" And at that point, it was like 200 yards away. And I'm like, well, we're sure going to try, bud. And so we're going to give her a go. And so I hit the grunt tube and rattle bags, and that deer turns and locks eyes with that decoy. And from 200 yards, on a rope to us. But the whole time, like, Tucker keeps like popping his head up to see the deer. And I'm like, get down, dude. We're in a ground blind. So there's no like, we're not a tree where I'm like, dude, you cannot lift your head up. And this deer's coming right at us. But then he would lose sight of it and like try to peek around and see it. I'm like, Tucker, bro, you can't do this. And the whole time I'm saying like, this is not going to happen. Like, there's no way I'm going to get this buck to commit and come in bow range with a 5-year-old poking his head out the window. But luckily with a decoy, it was so focused on the decoy, they didn't even notice Tucker's head popping up and down. But yeah, so the deer came in at 24 yards and we shot him. It was super cool and something I will never forget. Like, I mean, it's the reason that's the only one in this room, because it was just the greatest experience of my life having my son there, and until he kills his own, I can't imagine anything being better than that. So
yeah, I took him with me when we went rifle a couple times last year, and since I already had my buck, I was just looking for does, and I probably could have. When he was with me, I was a little more, cautious at taking longer shots or this or that, because I didn't want to, happen to make a bad shot with rifle. And then his first experience being walking up on a deer that's crippled, and shot it in the spine. And, one of those things. So he has not been with me when I have actually got one, but he has always seen them. He's real big on bring it home, let me see it. Like, he's all about that. He's really excited. He's been asking me, can I go with you? Can I go with you? Can I go with you? And I'm like, dude, not at the moment. Cause I'm in a stand at the moment. I just set out.
Give him chloroform.
Right. That's really what just pump him full of
melatonin.
I was going to say Benadryl, but yeah, we could do that too.
So have you seen first off, that was the cool part about how that played out, because the deer ran like 60 yards and I saw him fall down. So I'm like, great, perfect. But I still wanted him to have the experience of like blood trail. And so I'm like, all right, we got to go find our arrow. And so he's looking for an arrow and he's like, oh, here it is. It's covered in blood. And then like we follow it and like I'm looking at the deer over here, but he's like following the blood, and finally looks up and he just says, no freaking way, and runs across the field. And so you hear me in the camera saying, hey, watch your mouth. He's going to get the deer. But no, it was super cool, man. And like I said, an experience I'll never forget.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I'm excited.
It's almost like having Mike with you when you shoot one.
Yeah. It's so exciting.
I don't think you've ever shot one with me.
Mike's bad luck.
I took you duck hunting too, and it was a very poor morning.
That was a crazy day. That sucked.
It was like 5 degrees.
Yeah. We're just laying next to a river, and I'm just sitting here just shaking the whole thing. It sucks so bad.
And
that's what buck fever feels like.
Yeah, that's what.
It wasn't the adrenaline though,
dude. I Yeah, so I've gotten past the point of buck fever with deer. Like I don't know why, but it comes after. But I've gotten past that point where like before I'm trying to calm myself down.
Yeah.
But with bear hunting, dude, it's like when I was in Idaho, I see this bear at like 40 yards. It's coming into me, and then like I'm just shaking uncontrollably. I'm like,
It's because it can kill you.
Yeah, that's a good
like,
point.
Here it comes. Well, and part of it was because 2 nights before, if you listen to the podcast, I shot a bear in the chest, and we tracked this wounded bear. Insane story. My buddy's like chasing it down on foot. Like it was crazy.
Was this when you were like shoeless in the mountain, essentially?
No, this was last month in Idaho.
Really? Oh, okay.
If you listen to my podcast, you know the full story.
Yeah,
but
my bad.
no, I shot this bear standing up on its back legs in the chest, just like my target out here. And we're tracking this bear, and like I go down the mountain to hopefully cut it off the way it's going and shoot it again. And my buddy says, if he's coming your way, I'm going to cow call. I'm like, all right, sounds good. And so I hear cow calls, and I'm like, oh crap, here he comes, dude. And so I'm like, this bear's wounded. And the last thing he saw was me with this bow. So like, if he comes out, he's going to be mad. And so I'm like down there, like super nervous because this bear's coming. And I hear more cow calls. So I'm like, okay, which way is he coming from? And like, I hear more cow calls. Then I hear gunshots. Then I hear more cow calls. Then I hear gunshots. Then I hear more cow calls. Then it was insane. Finally, my buddy comes back around. He's all sweating. He's covered in blood. And he's like, I almost got him, dude. I almost had him by the back leg, but he got away, dude. And I'm like, what? I'm like, how do you have blood on you? And he's like, that's how bad the blood trail was, bro. I was just following this bear. I ran up the mountain,
rolling in it.
He's like, you see up there? And like points to the mountain. I'm like, yeah. He's like, I was just right up there. You didn't see me. I'm like, no, because I was down here ready for a bear.
I fell. Yeah.
And he's like, I was just chasing that bear down up that mountain, dude. I almost had him by the back leg, but he got away. So that's why I was cow calling. I was trying to get him to stop. And I'm like, you told me if you cow called me, he was coming my direction. He's like, forgot about that.
You're just like, you're like terrified, just waiting
like,
for this thing to maul you.
Like, I'll be honest, I forgot I told you that. And so, but then I would hear like whistles because they were both back there together. So they were trying to like locate each other while keeping track of the bear. And I'm like, it was an insane story. So fast forward 2 nights later, I'm sitting in a tree stand. This bear's coming, and I'm like, oh, here it comes. I'm like shaking like crazy. So bears get me shaken up, pretty hard.
I mean, I have not. I would like to go do some other hunts. I'll tell you, talking about my dad earlier, I don't really deal with him too much, but my little brother still talk to him. And years back, they went on he's like, hey, Dad's going to take us on a bear hunt. Do you want to go? And I was like, not really.
Yeah. Does he have a tag?
Right.
He does not.
Well,
you're at the zoo.
Who knows how he
It's in Wichita. Zoo Boulevard.
He traded something for a bear hunt.
Maybe some moonshine.
Well, this just goes
cocaine and moonshine.
Our youngest brother.
He and I don't know. There's probably people who hunt like this. I don't necessarily see the fun in it, but they went. It was in New Mexico, and they basically went and camped, and then in the morning they just let a bunch of dogs loose with GPS collars, and they would just track it. And when all the collars stopped, they'd know one was in a tree. They rode a horse out, and they just shot it with a gun out of a tree.
That doesn't sound as fun.
Not at all. And I was like like what? Like that's it. Like you just wait for it to crawl up in a tree and you shoot it out of the tree. Like what you're doing. Like I want the threat of being mauled to death. Like like that's
at least go at it with.
I've got an opening on my hunt. First week of June.
I'll have to see where
Idaho.
I'm not coaching anymore, so this is my last year.
Well, there's no football in June anyway. So.
Well, we have summer.
So. Cancel that.
Well, I'm not doing it anyway. I don't have to cancel it. But
bear hunts, dude.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with a backpack just full of spices and things.
So I don't think I've said this publicly yet, but I get home from that elk hunt and I'm like, babe, I was like kind of like nervous to tell her. I'm like, I booked a spring bear hunt back there again, and it's gonna be X amount of money, and I'm gonna be gone for 5 days. And she said, all right, I'm going. And I'm like, huh. Well, it's going to be X amount of money for you too, right? She's like, yeah, but I'm not staying home with the kids again. I'm like, all right. And I'm like, we're sleeping in a tent, right? Pooping in a hole. And she's like, yeah, but I'm not staying home with the kids again. I'm like, all right. So Chris is going on a bear hunt too. So,
wow.
I took 2 years ago, I took my wife deer hunting. Again, it was deer and rifle. We went the year before, we didn't get anything. And she had a chance at this giant buck, which I probably would have been butthurt had she got it. It was bigger than any deer I've ever shot, but it just happened to turn.
She didn't get it because he went.
All right. I was like, hold on, I'll drop something. But she went with me 2 years ago, and we're sitting. I just made a little ground blind, and we're sitting there, and this doe comes up real early, and
Mike knows.
Yeah,
Been there.
And this doe comes up, and I said, "Listen, you don't have to wait for a buck. You shoot whatever you want to shoot. You shoot." It comes up. She passes on it, and I mean, we were only out there for like 30 minutes when that happened, and so we're waiting. It's getting closer to dark, and there's this doe coming, and I go, "All right, just when you're comfortable, if you want to take the shot." And I'm going to get my phone out to record. I literally said that. I'm like, take the shot when you're comfortable. I reached for my phone, 3, 2, boom. She freaking drops it. Like, I mean, waited like all of 2 seconds. I don't know how she got the gun up and got aimed.
You're
so
like, hey,
fast.
if you wanna, and then it's just over.
Yes, it literally. I was like, if I was gonna film that for you, like, so you'd have this nice moment. Like, well, we end up having to drag the deer up to my truck, and we get to the truck, and I've got it, and she's like, I'm gonna throw up. I'm gonna throw up. And I'm like, good, relax. She's like, it's not even from the gut. She's like, I'm so tired from dragging this deer. Mind you, we drug it like
So
75 yards, like not even that far in the aspect of things.
And it was 100-pound doe.
Well, yeah.
All of 100 pounds.
2 days later, she takes a pregnancy test. She was pregnant. She was like, it was because I'm pregnant. That's what it was.
Yeah, I bet it was.
But that, I haven't taken my son, but that was a really cool moment. Seeing how excited she was, and all those things.
My wife has actually said she wants to go. I don't know that she wants to kill something, but she's like, I think it'd be cool to go on a hunt and see how it works. So like that was really
well. If you want to look at a bunch of animals that you're not hunting, they will come out.
If you
want to see every animal in Kansas that you're not trying to kill, take a bow and sit in a tree stand. Okay. I had 6 pheasant, a bobcat yesterday.
Oh Lord.
It's like probably 30 possums, a whole family of raccoons.
You have any arrows left? Or
yeah, I know, right? That's what I should have. Well,
you find a raccoon baby, you let me know.
I did 4 of them. I have them on video, all trailing. But the bobcat came by. There's an opening that I sit by, and it just kind of. I heard this pheasant just going to town, and I see it fly by, and then right behind it, a little bobcat came, and then that thing chased it all over the woods for like an hour. You just heard those 2 running around. But
I've got a resident back deck raccoon, no doubt, probably 120-pound raccoon.
Dude, that's what I was thinking. We had a raccoon around our house. Dude, those wild raccoons are sleek.
They are crazy.
They are sleek. Those things are little ninjas. They're not like these city raccoons.
So Tucker last night, like he's there every night, this raccoon, and I'm getting Tucker ready for bed, and he walks by the back door and he goes, "The coon's here," and he immediately goes into this stance like this, just like runs at it, and like the coon runs off. He's like, "No, I got away." And I'm like,
"Got away."
Almost got him.
I'm like, he was outside, you idiot! Like, what'd you think you were gonna do? Run through the door and get him?
Catch him?
And he's like, "No, I was gonna get my Nerf gun." I'm like, "You ran at him!" Like,
I'd see barehanded coon.
Yeah,
that'd be a lot of fun.
I always, man, every time we're at the zoo and Tucker's like picking on the kangaroos at Tanganyika, you can like walk through there, and I'm like, dude, I hope one of them just stands up and boxes you right in the face, dude. And I'm not helping, dude. I'm just gonna video.
Just let it happen.
So, Mike, let me paint the backstory here before old Foodie Mike Miguel, Foodie C, whatever you want to call him, gets into this. I had access to hunt this ground, and it all happened kind of quick. So I went in, and I'm like, this is where I want to be. It's like an hour from home. So I hung one tree stand, but then I find another area, and I'm like, man, I really like this too. And but I didn't have another tree stand, so I just brush in a ground blind and just find some sticks, limbs, make a ground blind. But I had set it up in a way where I'm like, man, if they use this trail, and it was a man-made trail, like a hiking trail, but I'm like, deer are going to use it too. And I'm like, if they do, they're going to literally be 3.5 inches from the blind. And I'm like, but that'll be fun, I guess. Cool. And so at that time we were still filming the TV show, and I'm like, I need somebody to come film for me. So I'm like, Mike, you want to come film? And Mike had never hunted before. And so he's like,
hell yeah.
Sure, dude. And so I roll up to pick up Mike to go hunting, and he said, I smoked the whole bologna. And I've made it. I got some King's Hawaiian buns and some bologna. And so
good.
We're munching on this bologna the whole way out to this hunt. And we get out there, and I even take a couple sandwiches with me, like in a Ziploc bag. At this point, I'm like 17 and a half sandwiches deep. Like,
Yeah, absolutely. Not an exaggeration.
not an exaggeration. Because I grew up in Arkansas, and smoked bologna is like a delicacy. Like, it's like prime rib in Arkansas. So anyways, we're sitting there, and slow morning or evening. This was in the evening, right?
Yeah, because we went back a second time.
And then Mike experiences his first deer in the woods.
Yeah, it was crazy. So we're sitting there hanging out, and I've got the camera on ready, like I'm ready to go just in case. Got everything going on, and Dylan obviously has hunted a lot in his life. So every time I look over, I hear noises, and I'm looking at him to see if he's like alert or anything, and he's like just crushing candy on his phone. I'm like, okay, well, I guess we're doing okay. We keep hearing these noises behind us, and I was like, man, what is that? What do you think that? And he's like, I don't know, man. It could be squirrels or something. I was like, man, it sounds like a freaking big squirrel. So we're finally sitting there, and all of a sudden, like I see something come up, because it literally there's like this depression right where
it drops
the
off
trail
right
is.
behind the blind.
So right behind us, and then it comes up right in front of us. So anyways, he's sitting there doing something, and I remember just like tapping him because I see this huge deer head right here. And okay, if you're not a hunter, if you've never been around deer and things, like you see him in the field and like, oh man, that's a deer, that's cool. But then you see it like literally, I could reach out and like slap this thing in the face. Like it was so close to me, it was right there.
Probably no exaggeration. There were sticks in your way, but
Yeah,
probably a foot and a half from you.
literally could have like punched this thing in the face if I wanted to.
Yeah.
So anyways, I'm like tapping him. I'm like, oh God, like I don't want to say anything. I'm trying to get the camera up. Like I'm trying to get him ready. So he sees this thing like walking right in front of us. And I mean, it's right there. So anyways, he slowly like brings it up. And then it's like, it had to have just smelled like smoked bologna or something. So all of a sudden it like looks
I
at
know what it smelled.
maybe some hot chocolate.
Some
or
hot cocoa.
I may have had a thermos on me. I keep that thing on me. But anyway, so yeah, this thing all of a sudden jumps up. And it's insane because I'm like, this thing easily clears me. You know what I mean? Like I'm standing up and this thing easily could have just jumped over me.
Yeah.
And then just bolts off. So before he can even get his bow up or I get the camera up, like this thing spots us and is gone. And it was just the craziest thing.
Okay, let me just say this. I am of the opinion you cannot fool a deer's nose. Now, listen, guys, I used to be like a scent Nazi. Like I used to wash my clothes, put them in totes, put, pine needles in there, not get gas, not do anything. Like before my hunt, like I was a Nazi on scent. Then I realized no matter how much you do that you can't fool a deer's nose. However, I don't try to add scent to the equation. Like I don't.
You're going to tell me they don't want some hot chocolate.
Increase the difference.
I don't try to. I still take no scent showers and wash my clothes, but I'm not like a freak anymore. I'm like you hunt the wind and you're good. So after all that, like we're sitting there and Mike unscrews the lid to this thermos and pours cup. I'm like, is that hot cocoa, bro? And he just
like,
goes,
duh.
He just goes, yeah, you want some? I'm like, dude, we can't be having hot cocoa out here.
How do I know you didn't burp and it just smelled like smoky meats? You know what I mean? Like,
Very well might have.
it could have.
He busts out a bottle of Calvin Klein. Like, can't be smelling bad out here.
Got to be
Axe
smelling
body
good from.
spray.
Yeah.
Brought to you by Axe.
Oh my gosh. So
that was wild. That was crazy.
That was Mike's first and only hunting experience. Haven't taken him back since.
Well, I wouldn't say only hunting experience, maybe only deer hunting experience. But like I said, when we were laying down next to that frozen river, and the cool thing is I brought my drone that day and we got some really cool footage though.
Yeah, I remember that.
We got some really
Who
cool.
did we go hunting with?
Was it Miles?
I don't remember.
Or yeah.
No, Brandon Turney.
Turney. Yeah, it was Turney.
Yeah.
So the craziest thing about that though is like I feel like it was just kind of a crap day. It's like we'd see stuff every once in a while, but it was never close enough.
Yeah, it was not good.
So we're all like, we get up and we're sitting there talking, having like some breakfast pizza from Casey's or something. And then
did we kill any ducks?
we did. And it was like this moment right before we left. We're all kind of just sitting there like, yeah, all right, what are we going to do? Like, we're trying to figure out if we're going to pack up or whatever. All of a sudden, Dylan's like, here they come. Like, they just come out of nowhere and fly up. Dylan just lifts up and shoots real quick and then drops one. And I'm like, holy cow, man. Like, we had no idea they were even coming. So we're in this ravine and everything. Yeah, it was wild.
Like I said, I grew up in Arkansas where duck hunting is king, and grew up hunting just outside of Stuttgart. And I went before school, after school. I mean, every day duck season was open, I went. And I can't say the amount of times like we were sitting there, we'd have a skillet in the blind, like cooking bacon and eggs, and like a 45 ducks fly by. I'm like, huh, should have been ready for that.
See, that sounds my style of cooking, like or
Yeah.
hunting. Let me just be hanging out doing some cooking and let me get some tacos.
You see some of those guys, especially nowadays, they have like the full kitchen underneath, like built like it's like a
TVs
cabin.
and kitchens.
Yeah, it's like a cabin in
It's
there.
like tailgating.
They pull their boat under the blind and then just climb up in there, and it's like a lodge.
It's next level. That the spot that I am that I hunt that's private. Again, it's right next to public, so it's basically public. I'll show somebody a deer and somebody like, you should have waited. It's right next to it. There's no waiting.
You'll have to show me where that is on a map.
Yeah. They there's no waiting. They're all going to get shot. Like, it is the Wild West out there. During rifle, it sounds like the Civil War. Yeah, it's terrifying. But they're duck hunters, so they bought it because it was marsh, and so they were at that point it wasn't holding water, but it had been. I don't know if it's part of public at one point or not, but there was some old cement duck blinds and stuff. Anyway, they built the dam and dammed it up, and they just used it for duck hunting. Well, it's been too dry the last few years, and so they haven't really used it at all. So I'm the only one really out there. But I would go duck hunting with them, and it's just, you're just freezing cold, and you're just sitting there
miserable.
Like, yeah. They're like, don't look up, don't show them the white of your eyes. Like they'll see you. Like,
oh, dude,
do this, and it's like, God dang.
You think deer have good vision?
They're having Vietnam
flashbacks. You think deer have good vision, man? Ducks are insane. I remember one time specifically, like we kept getting flashed by these ducks, and they would just belly up and turn. And we're like, what the heck? And finally, my buddy like looks over. He's like, dude, you've got white on your beanie. And I'm like, they can't see. That's a small little logo on the front. And sure enough, I turn that, and all of a sudden, ducks aren't doing it no more.
Yeah,
it's like it's insane, dude. They just they pick you out like crazy. So on being that close to public ground, do you get a ton of pictures of like public ground guys just?
So this is another thing that I'm probably different than most people on. I don't typically run cameras at all.
Ooh.
So I think, and this is different for me compared to somebody who has 300 acres to hunt or something, and they can keep deer around. There's no such thing. I've never once seen the same deer twice in the same, like the next year, where I'm at. And so I don't run a lot of cameras. That being said, my buddy did have one out. The guy's laying out. He does have some out, and yeah, he sees people on there. When it's pheasant season, or pheasant and quail, I'll be up in the sand. I'll see people walking out like through like in his stuff constantly, and I have to like call it in and do different stuff. It's a real pain.
To just fire some warning shots.
This is in the crossbow. You wouldn't hear it, so I'd probably hit him, and then I'd be facing some murder charges. But yeah, I mean, I don't. So the funny enough you say that. So this year I got gifted some cell cameras. Right, I got 4 of them, and I went and put them out. And my big thing before is I don't bait. I don't have cameras out. I just go hunt. And if a deer comes by that I feel like I have that feeling like, oh my God, I need to you get, buck fever, then I'm going to shoot it. I don't want to wait. I don't want to be like, well, I know there's another one out here that has a drop tine, and so I'm not going to shoot this one and just pray that it comes back. Well, funny enough, this year I got the cameras. I said, I'll go set them out. So I go set them out. And I put them out on October 1st. And since October 1st, I'm glued to my phone. I'm checking it. My pictures are coming in. I'm getting these nice bucks. And there are some bucks there that the size of them, I never would have guessed. I mean, I've seen early season, like in September, I will usually see like 1 or 2 just monsters. But as it gets on, they just disappear. And so I'm got them on camera. I mean, I've got a 12 point, a massive 10 point, another. I mean, this 8 point is so the tines are so long. They've got to be like 2 feet long. It's crazy. But I've already found myself. I was in the stand 2 weeks ago, and a decent 8 point buck came in. I don't know that I would have shot it in years past, but I would have been more excited to see it. Comes in, and I'm like, whatever, this is fine. I'll videotape it. And it goes on its way. And I was like, man, I usually would have been really nervous, even just seeing that. And now I'm like, well, this deer was here 3 weeks ago on this day. Like, it'll probably like pop back up. Well, Saturday, we had a pretty good temp drop, but my friends do this pumpkin carving thing, and I usually skip it and go hunting. But this one time I'm like, oh, I'll go. And of course I'm there at 8:00 hits. My pictures come in at 6:40, that massive 10 points out there. So now I'm in a bad mood, and I'm like, I could have just been there. I could have done this. I think that just really takes away. Like, I'm almost at the point right now, I'm going to go pull the cameras, because I went out last night, and the whole time, I see 5 does and I see all these other things, but I'm not enjoying myself, because I'm like, I know yesterday that he was here yesterday. I know he's not going to be here today. And it's just, it just makes the times, because I do enjoy sitting out in nature, and it's almost taking away from that when I don't see these big deer that I know I have on camera, and I don't see them. And I'm just like, I just was a wasted day. Like, or, if I don't go out, then I'm like, I should have been out. If I don't have a camera out, I don't know what was there. Yeah. And it doesn't ruin my day. And I don't have like these feelings. So I'm kind of torn right now on what to do, because it is nice to have and see what is there. But I can tell you right now, the 10 point is the first time I've seen him twice. I saw him at the beginning of the month, and this other time I've never seen a single one of the other bucks I have on camera again. I haven't seen him twice. I'm telling you, the spot that I hunt is like a road, and it goes from public. They run through our little spot, which is 2 fields. On the south side, there's a marsh. But then it's 2 fields with CRP running all the way through the middle of the two ag fields, and a little bit of a tree row. And then it goes into, and on the north side's a hunting preserve that nobody hunts. And so it's just like a safe haven. So they stay over there. I don't know what they're going to the public for, honestly, or what they're going down there for. But they just kind of cruise that spot. They don't really bed in that area or anything. The does do, but the bucks, like, it's crazy.
So I'll tell you where I stand on that. Cause I've had this conversation with a couple people before. When I grew up, like when I started hunting, you definitely didn't have no cell cameras.
Yeah.
And the cameras were garbage. Like sometimes they worked, sometimes they didn't. Like they were this big. Like you hardly never even put them out. Like, and I remember like not even knowing like what a trail camera is. And the excitement of like, man, I hope there's deer here. Like I hope there's I've seen the tracks, and I hope. Anyways, I remember the excitement of like just seeing a deer and being like, all right, there's deer here. And then, like you said, like you see a buck, and you're like, holy crap, like there's a decent buck here. And now, like you, I'm to the point where it's like, man, I have passed some really good deer knowing that there's a bigger one in the area. And also, I think that trail cameras take away part of your instincts as a hunter.
Mm-hmm.
Like just last year, I was in Oklahoma, and all of my instincts were telling me to go sit at this other spot. All of them were. But I had pictures day after day after day of this big buck at this stand. And so I went to that stand. All of my instincts were telling me to go to this other stand. And so I'm sitting there hunting, and my phone dings, and I pull it out, and that deer is standing in front of that other stand a mile away. And I'm like, gosh, dang it. Like, and the only reason I went to that stand was because I had pictures of that deer there. Yep. And again, it's just like sometimes relying on hunter instinct of just like, you know what, I think that deer's going to be over there tonight. Like, I miss part of that. And I miss part of just going out, and now don't get me wrong. I mean, I've got like 17 trail cameras out right now, but I just miss part of that sometimes. And so I actually told one of my friends, I'm like, I want to find a property. I want to lease it, and I want to like no cameras. This is just a property to go have fun on.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I feel like it's not like I'm not shooting spike bucks. Like every buck I have is an 8 point or bigger, and they are like mature, big deer. But these 2 that I have are just like monsters that are on camera. And it's like, do you wait for those ginormous deer to maybe come by, or do I just take another really solid deer? And
that would be tough. I mean, just the thought of having the cameras, like I personally feel like I'm more entertained by the stuff that, like I feel like the cameras, you see funny stuff.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's cool to see like raccoons fighting other animals and stuff or whatever, because you got some corn out or whatever. But I feel like if I was a hunter, I don't know that I would want to know what's out there and what's been, just like you said. I feel like you're going to kind of have more anxiety of when should I be there? When should I not?
Yeah. Like there's a lot of like, I don't know if it's like FOMO or what it is. Like, in the past it'd be like, oh, I can't make it out today, or, this or that. And now it's just like, well, I saw deer there. I got to get out. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. And I just feel like I'm not having as much fun this year. Like I've experienced a level of disappointment this year when it doesn't come to me like spooking a deer or missing a shot or something like that. I'm just seeing it on camera and I'm like, oh, I should have changed plans. I shouldn't have been at home, or I shouldn't have been spending this time with my kids. I should have been in the tree and I would have shot this big deer. I don't like feeling like that. So I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm in a conundrum for the most part.
But at the same time, like there's a fun to the game of like
chasing it essentially.
Yeah.
Like,
playing the cat and mouse game of like, all right, he was there last night. Like,
and that's what I'm saying. Like, I think if I if I even had access to a large property, I think it would be different.
right. Cause you're managing it. Like,
yes, there's a lot of things that you could do. There's no, if I legitimately have a good looking deer, 8-10 point deer, but it probably would get significantly bigger in the next year. The second it steps on public, it's gone. It's not going to grow. Like it's not going to be there next year. Like,
yeah, where you're at is tough.
It is absolutely. And it's not like even the spot I'm at it's not even 40 acres. It's like 20. Like it's still not a big spot. It's not like I have this big sprawling area that I get access to. It's a creek away from public. Like it's right next to it.
This makes me want to load up a
right
bunch of some smoked bologna and just go out with you guys.
Just go right
on
on
what
out.
happens.
But I will say, I think a benefit of being that close to public is there are people that go out
and
that
spook deer towards you.
Well, they not only spook deer towards me, but the deer get like I may come out with some scent on me, but I don't smell like
you're not smoking a cigarette.
Or like just crushed like a pepperoni pizza in the stand. Like there's
nothing wrong with that.
No, but
I feel like he's judgmental.
But
I feel like he's judging.
I may be able to eat a little something and go.
He said, if I can smell you a mile away, then
exactly.
I'll try the deer.
But it really is crazy. Like so I still do hunt some of the public as well, just kind of depending on what's going on. And it's so funny. I mean, you could do a whole podcast about people on public land, but it being like, let's say the time changes happen and it gets dark at 5:45.
That's this Sunday, isn't it?
Yeah, it changes. It'll be 5:00 and you'll see a couple guys just walking down below. Like they're not like, what are you stalking here, man? We're in, like, you can't stalk anything where we're at. Like you're just walking through the woods right now with some bows.
Start throwing stuff.
Like it really is. It's funny. And, public land is for everybody. I'm not going to say you can't, these people shouldn't be out there. Good for them being out, but it's definitely a wild beast. And in Kansas, I know there are states that are worse than us, but we do not have a lot of public land, especially around here.
Yeah.
I feel like that's gotten worse just over the past few years because everybody's buying up that land so they can use it as,
I mean, there's just big money in it. When we were in high school, especially around here, I had the luxury of working for a farmer, and so he would let me hunt. But at that point in time, it was really just for pheasant. I wasn't trying to deer hunt, so really just need a grass field. But that's just not the, everybody wants money.
How long have you been coaching the high school team?
5 years. This is my 5th year.
So were you Michael Ledbetter's coach?
No, he was 2 years before me.
Okay. So that's my brother-in-law, for those of you that don't know. When he was quarterback and we had to go to every game. And I used to have a ton of deer back here in this field, just all the time. But I had never seen any bucks. And one night, it was like Friday night.
Do you have that moral call inside you? Like, am I going to kill this thing right now?
I'll get there. So Friday night, it was like 5:00. I mean, you can already start seeing the lights come on at the field. For those of you listening, I live like
stone's throw. Yeah.
200 yards from the football field, maybe. And I see a nice buck, like from inside, like across the field. And I'm like, Chrissy, I can go shoot this thing. Like, because I can walk to my backyard and stand at the fence and have a 40-yard shot, and he would have never even known I was there. I'm like, I'm going to go shoot this buck. Like, this is a nice buck. And she's like, no, Dylan. She's like, we got to leave for the game in 5 minutes. And I'm like,
give me two.
I said, I'll take care of the deer after the game. Like, I'll just shoot it and come back. And she's like, what if it runs to the field? Like, what if it runs that way? And I'm like,
right.
That'd be the coolest thing ever.
Well, that's a good point.
Very good point.
And she's like, what are they going to do if people are rolling into the football game and you're there gutting a deer, like on the side of the road? And I'm like,
tailgating.
I don't know. Like,
just got to do it,
And so like, I was looking at this deer for like 5 minutes, just standing out there in the field. And I'm like, I went back and forth with myself like 10 times. I'm like, all right, I won't shoot it. I'm going to go shoot it. I better not.
I will
I'm
say,
go shoot
so
it.
I wish Wichita would do what some of the bigger cities do, because we do have some very, I mean, right off of one of our highways, K96, just to the south of it is just ag fields. There's
I know
just
what you're
deer,
talking about,
and they're just, I know that in Georgia, a lot of the metropolitan areas allow you to hunt deer like in the forested area.
So you don't see them dead on the
So,
side of the road by
Based
cars?
off of what I have gathered from talking to police, I can technically shoot back there
Mhm.
as long as I'm not shooting towards the road.
Yeah.
But I still don't know and you would have to know where we're sitting at for you to really understand this, because the deer could literally run and die in the middle school, like in the track. The deer could literally run to the football field and die. Like, but I don't. So yeah, I've never shot a deer back here. I have been tempted several times. I have never mind. Yeah, I've been tempted several times.
Yeah, that would be a definite conundrum. So at my dad's house up on Tuttle Creek, like you could walk out on your
And he
patio.
did.
Oh, he did. And you could just smoke a deer out there, like but he would do it in July. So it's a lot different.
Little different.
Yeah.
It's not
Okay.
not the same. But yeah, I've always that's the dream always, right? To buy a house and have some land and be able to just leave your house and go
shoot deer.
Yeah, I mean,
It's like the Brooks house, like right behind them. Is
Yeah.
Like
oh yeah.
it's so nice, man. But they want them around, so like, oh, we'll feed them and just watch them, and everybody else is like getting bloodlust.
There have been some giant deer back there over the years. Giant deer, and now I have nothing stopping me from going and.
That's true.
Shoot. Yeah, I've seen sheds, and I've seen some pictures of deer back there, and just absolute monsters.
That's what I'm saying. Like they're around Koch Industries, and there's a place just south of there. I can't remember what the building is now, but it's like a big white like tennis or a golf ball looking building. We met a guy who's a groundsman for that, and they do get to go out and hunt those deer there.
That's cool.
It's some special deal they do, but he gets to go out and
we have a buddy, Grant has a property literally smack dab in the middle of Wichita, but it's a big wooded property, and dude kills like giants off of this. Like, and if you see a trail camera, you're like, holy crap, dude, there's 15 shooters in one picture. You're like, holy crap. And it's literally smack dab in the middle of Wichita.
Yeah.
Like just
little sanctuaries that they have. It's
crazy.
It really is.
So Mike, how do you feel about CWD and the spread of CWD in Oklahoma?
I'm not for it.
I'm not.
I'm gonna have to say I'm strongly opposed.
Nope. Not a chance.
Keep that away from me. Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, no, but I do see where you're at on the whole trail camera, like, because I've been there too, like it. And I've honestly thought to myself, like, Chrissy might think I'm having an affair, because like my phone will ding in the middle of the night, and I'm like, oh, that's the trail camera.
I better check that out real quick.
See what's on there.
And then she sees me going, oh, look at that rack. And then I turn it off. And so she's definitely seen the, So I'm like, okay, well.
Yeah, that's literally last night. I like rolled over to see what time it was, and I saw I had some pictures. And so like it's 3:00 in the morning, and I'm like leaned over the side of the bed looking at my phone. I'm like, God, if my wife looked over, she'd be like.
My wife actually just did that to me. It was funny. I couldn't sleep.
What trail cam were you looking at?
It wasn't a trail cam. That's the funny thing. I was
looking at pictures of grills.
This shows how much she trusts me, because like it was the day before. So I started working with this company called Seatopia, and they send like this ethically raised like sushi grade fish to you. And I knew it was coming in the next day. I woke up for whatever reason. It was like 3 a.m. I couldn't sleep. So I'm just laying there. I try to sleep for like an hour.
That just means you're getting old.
Yeah, that might be what it is. But I just pick up my phone, and I'm just sitting there. I'm literally looking at like sushi recipes, like salmon crudo and all this stuff. And she's like, yeah, I woke up at one point and rolled over. And she's like, it's like that meme where you're like, oh, I bet he's talking to other girls. And she's like, then I see her looking at fish recipes. And it's like, so that's my life.
But then I remember, never mind. Yeah. There's definitely been times I don't get to that. People are like, I woke up at 3 a.m. and couldn't fall back to sleep. I'm like, I've never had that problem.
No, it sucks.
I've definitely like few and far between, but I'm definitely one of those
That means
people.
you're getting older.
I can lay down in bed and be asleep within like 30
I used to be that way, but now
now I can like get up. I could go run a mile and lay back down. I could probably just go right.
Chrissy, I remember one time I woke up. This is when we used to go to the gym together early mornings. I woke up, took pre-workout. I'm like, I'm going to lay back down for just a minute. I got time.
Yeah.
Just literally chugged pre-workout, but went back to sleep.
No, dude. If I'm not taking like melatonin and whatever, it's like I'm going to be up all night. And then I'm up at 6.
That's how Chrissy is. And she woke me up at like 4 a.m. literally 2 nights ago. Like tapped me on the forehead. She's like, hey, watch this reel. This is so funny. And I'm like,
I probably would have hit her in the mouth.
I was so mad, but the reel was funny.
That wasn't hilarious. You were getting it.
It was I'll tell you what it was. It was Jason Aldean. And he has on noise canceling headphones, and he calls Luke Bryan, and his wife is telling him what to say. And so, but he can't hear her. He's just guessing what to say. And so Luke's like, you all right, man? He's like, no. And he said, there's like some weird delay. Are you out of the country? And he said, just chilling. And he's like, are you drunk? And he says, yeah. And he says, what are you doing? And she says something, but he says, you want to go to Africa? And he says, when?
Definitely drunk.
And he says, tomorrow.
It's like, you couldn't send this to me? You had to wake me up at 4 a.m.
And then he's just like, you all right, dog? And he's like, all right, love you too, dog. It's like, all right, bye. And hangs up on it.
Oh, Lord.
It was hilarious. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for listening. I don't know that you gained anything knowledgeable from this podcast,
No, not at all.
but it was definitely fun, and I appreciate everything going on. I will say this. We've got some exciting stuff coming for Cook Wild. So if you're a fan of the monthly special of Cook Wild, Mr. Miguel Castaneda is going to be coming to the Pope and Young convention. And we're having a wild game cook-off at the Pope and Young convention where you get to enter and cook your wild game recipes. So stay tuned for more of that. Mike's going to be one of our celebrity judges. It's going to be a good time. So if you're a fan of that, that's going to be fun. And I would definitely come hang out, eat some good food. And I think we alluded to this. I think we talked about this last time. You'll be cooking for some, like if you enter to do this, you'll be cooking for some of your legends.
Big dogs. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you've got Chuck Adams, Tom Miranda. Obviously, last year it was John Dudley and Bone Collector and Meat Eater and all those guys. You'll be cooking for those guys. So definitely, if you have a recipe that you think, hey, I can cook some wild game, get in there to win that. It's only $300, and you're getting a whole bunch of money in Camp Chef Grills just for entering. You get to take your whole cook system with you after the convention. So definitely go to pope-young.org. Go to the convention tab and stay tuned for more information of that coming, because it's going to be just awesome. But guys, I am a big believer in custom built aftermarket strings. Basically, the moment I pull my bow out of the box, whether it's a new compound, a new recurve, a new longbow, I'm going to be putting a custom built aftermarket string on that bow. At Dominant Strands, they're going to be using high quality fibers from BCY, like a low wax 452X. The low wax content and the special way that they pre-stress and pre-stretch those strings and cables make for a very, very stable set of strings. They're going to last longer and they're going to shoot better. There's going to be very little peep rotation. There's going to be very little stretch over time. You are going to be a lot happier in the long term. You're just going to have a lot better shooting experience when you upgrade those strings to an aftermarket custom built set of strings. Plus, you can customize them any way you want. Now, I'm also a huge believer in custom built strings for a longbow or recurve. Why? Because coming from the factory, they're not going to be using the highest quality materials. They're not going to be pre-stretching those strings over long periods of time. Whereas, again, if I call up Dominant Strands, they're going to build the best set of strings for that bow. I'm going to walk them through what I want out of that string, what I want out of that bow, and they're going to build a set of strings exactly to spec out of the best materials for that bow. Guys, a custom set, the best string you could ever buy for your recurve or longbow, is going to cost you about $30. That is the most bang for your buck that you can get when upgrading your longbow or recurve. You're going to get an incredible shooting experience upgrade for just $30. So I encourage everybody, the moment that recurve or longbow comes out of the box, upgrade it to a custom built string. Guys, the people over at Dominant Strands, they are unmatched when it comes to their customer service. You're going to call them up. You're going to talk to your string builder, the guy that's going to be building your strings. He's going to ask you what you're looking to get out of the bow. He's going to ask you about your bow. He's going to ask you about your nocks. He's going to ask you everything about your bow setup so he can build you the best set of strings for your bow. Guys, I would highly encourage everybody, no matter the bow, no matter the manufacturer, to consider upgrading your strings to a nice set of custom built aftermarket strings. My boys over at Dominant Strands, they do it, and they do it very, very well. Their turnaround time is incredible. Their attention to detail is unmatched. Guys, give them a call for your next set of strings, and I promise you, you will be happy. Guys, thanks so much for listening. Y'all have a fantastic week.